Yo, it is Zero Senpai here, and today we are doing another What If. This What If is, what if Natsu had fire and Iron Dragon Slayer magic? Last time where we left off was when Natsu was dragging Lucy to Fairy Tail saying that, didn't you want to be in Fairy Tail? I can get you in if Master says it's okay. As that happened, Lucy's getting dragged, and she's like, okay, can you let me go? Please, I can walk on my own. Please let me go. Natsu? Not Natsu. Oh, I forgot what I call him. Yeah, Drakon. She says, let me go, Drakon, please. And Natsu stops and lets her go. He says, yeah, I'm fine. I'm sorry. Got a little bit too excited, and we had to kind of run from those people. They would have arrested me, most likely, because I did destroy some of the town. So, yeah. As they start walking, and Lucy remembers, oh crap, my keys. And she's like, Natsu, not Natsu, oh my goodness. I'll just say Natsu, but I'll mean Drakon. She looks at him and says, Natsu! My keys, I forgot them. They're still in the water. As she's freaking out, she's like, no, and she starts like tearing up because she has been collecting those forever, and she sees a lot of them as family. As Natsu says, oh yeah, I forgot, and he reaches into a little pouch he has on his back and pulls out keys and hands them to Lucy, and Lucy's like, what? And Natsu looks at her and says, well, I saw them fall into the water, so I jumped in and grabbed them, and I forgot to return them to you. Thank you for reminding me. As they continue on their journey, as they walk into the town of Fairy Tail. As they're walking up the stairs, heading up to the Fairy Tail entrance, you hear screaming and yelling and boom, boom, boom. As Lucy's getting worried, she's like, Natsu, what's going on? Is someone attacking your guild or something? And Natsu looks at her and says, yeah, no, that's just everyone in the guild. We're a lively bunch, you know. So if you want to join the guild, you're going to have to get used to all the rowdiness. As they continue walking up the stairs and they reach the door, as he opens it, and all this Lucy sees inside after she walks in is people fighting each other, yelling, and one girl was sitting on the table with a giant barrel of alcohol. Oh, excuse me. Another two are actually sitting there arm wrestling in an intense arm wrestle, screaming and yelling at each other. And stuff like that. As she's just like, what have I gotten myself into? And she's having doubts right now, like, oh crap. And not just like, whatever. Walks by. And as Makarov comes back from a little meeting he had after he finds out what Natsu did, he arrives and goes up on top of the railing and he yells, everyone, quiet down! And everyone just stops, and they all look up, and Makarov has an angry face, and he looks at everyone and says, for the last time, you need to stop destroying the guild hall. We aren't rich. Second off, quit destroying towns. I'm talking to you, Natsu. And, I'm gonna change my voice, sorry, I probably should have done an older romantic voice. And who is that, by the way? The, blondie over there, I don't recognize her. And Natsu looks at, Master and goes, whoops, ow. As he looks at him and says, well, sir, Master, she is a new guild member I'd like to invite to the guild, if you're okay with it, sir. You know, he's acting all weird, like he always does. And Lucy's like, yeah, I'm Lucy, Heartphilia. I don't know if she said her actual full name in the anime, but let's just say she has Lucy, because I think she hid her last name to make sure that they wouldn't know she was rich or used to be rich. But yeah, she goes, I'm Lucy, sir, Makarov. And Makarov jumps down and says, okay. Well, you all are in some big trouble now. First off, you guys need to fix the guild hall because I am not paying for this. You're gonna take it out of your own pockets this time. And Natsu, you destroyed part of a town. Why would you do that? And Natsu looks at Master and says, well, there was some guy there that was acting like he was a fairy tale member claiming to be me, so I just, I beat him into a pulp. I might have accidentally went overboard. And Makarov looks down and says, and hits his face and says, overboard is an understatement. You destroyed part of a town, Natsu, again. That's like the 3rd time this week. And probably around the 1,000th time this year. Maybe even more than that. Okay. Just, please, calm down. And he then gets back up on his little place and he looks at everyone and says, well, the council wants us to stop destroying things and, you know, finding us for stuff like that. But guess what? I don't care what the council says. None of us do, right? As he rips up the papers and throws them, he says, we don't listen to the council unless it's something more important. I'm trying to make him not sound evil. I know he's not evil in the anime, and he's not evil in this either. Like, I can't remember exactly what he said, but it's just that whole speech about how he ripped up the papers at the beginning when they first when Lucy first came to the guild. You know, if you remember that. I can't remember exactly what he said, but it's something close to that. So after that, Master goes up to Lucy and starts talking to her and asks, hey, you said your name's Lucy, right? And Lucy looks at Makarov and replies, yes, sir, my name's Lucy. And Makarov's like, okay, one question for you. Why do you want to join Fairy Tail? Well, this is a really popular guild, and I really have been wanting to join it since I was a little kid, but I wasn't able to for family reasons. But now I'm able to, and Natsu said he would bring me here and give me a recommendation type thing, whatever he means by that. I don't know what to do in this situation. Kind of a little bit frightened, because as she looks behind her and still sees people yelling and like fighting each other, she's like, I didn't realize you guys were this rowdy. And Makarov looks at her and says, well, do you not like our rowdiness or something? And she's like, no, that's not what I mean. I mean, like, I'm just surprised. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying I'm surprised. That's all. It's kind of cool that you guys are more carefree than most guilds, you know? Yeah, I know. But, well, welcome to the guild. As he calls over... Oh my goodness, I still can't remember her name. I know it starts with an M. Here, I'll be right back. I'm gonna look up her name so I can try to get it, you know? Be right back. I hate myself. I hate myself right now. I can't believe I messed up that name so bad. Last time I called her like May or something like that. It's Mary Jane, not May or whatever I said last time. As Makarov calls over Mary Jane and says, Mary Jane, stamp her with a guild symbol. And Mary Jane says, yeah, okay. As Mary Jane has her same little attitude she does later in the series because of what happened to, it's not Elaine. maybe, I'm not sure, but her sister. So she goes over to Lucy and says, well, where would you like your symbol? And which color? And she's like, well, could I get it? I think she had it on her shoulder. No, she had it on her hand. She's like, can I get it on my hand and can I have blue, please? And Mary Jane says, yes, that can be arranged, as she goes over and just stamps her hand. As just like in canon, the little boy runs in complaining like, my father hasn't been back in a few days. Where is he? As the boy is, like crying and like, does something happen to him? As some of the guild members are like, hey, he's a strong guy. You don't need to worry about him. If you can't make it back, then, well, there's nothing we can really do. I mean, we don't really know where he went. As Makarov, he's like, listen, boy. You need to learn that we all have to fend for ourselves sometime. If he's not back within 5 more hours, I'll send a search party. Okay? As the boy looks at his, looks at the master and says, no! You guys, sorry, my thing cut out again, so let's just continue where I just, got cut off at. No, what if something happened to him? What if he's injured and you guys don't make it in time? As he starts bawling and it's like, please send someone out. As Makarov looks at him and says, listen, we will send a search party in 5 hours. Unless anyone here wants to go right now and look, then we're gonna wait 5 more hours. As Natsu is looking at the board for a job and punches the board and walks out, as a little boy had to run off. And Lucy sees this, he's like, what just happened? As Mary Jane walks up to Lucy and says, Natsu, he's a lot similar to that boy in many ways. He feels the same way. He lost his father at an early age too, so he knows how the boy feels. He's always been like that. That's what makes Natsu Natsu. It's what makes Natsu our Natsu. Fairy Tales Natsu. And Lucy's like, oh, I didn't know. As she runs off and sees Natsu and the boy, as Natsu puts a hand on the boy's shoulder and says, hey, don't worry. I will go find your father. I'll be back. As he walks off and the boy looks ahead and is like, Natsu, thank you! As Natsu doesn't reply and just keeps walking, as Lucy runs past the boy over to Natsu and tells Natsu, I'm coming with you. I'm gonna help. As Natsu's like, okay, if you want to come, then you're allowed. I'm not gonna stop you. I mean, you have your own free will. As they walk and they get into the mountain, as they're walking up the mountain, and just like in canon, Lucy puts herself in that little clock thing to keep herself warm. And I forgot what they were called, but I'm going to call it a snow ape because that's all I can get it off of. I can't remember what they're called. Give me a second. But those snow ape things, one of them are up on the mountain and they see Lucy and they're like, woman. As you know, the thing is like a womanizer basically. You know how those things are. They're like, I only like woman. Men disgusting, you know. But he's staring down. He's like, as Natsu and Lucy continue walking, as they reach a cave where the snow ape went back into, as they did not see this, but they walked in trying to figure out where. Oh, give me a second now. Trying to find the kid's father. As they're walking around, they get attacked by a snow ape as Natsu dodges just in time, as he uses some of his iron to hit the ape away, and the ape comes charging back at him. And as in canon, Natsu is a stupid idiot. You know how he is, and he says, "Where's I think I forgot his name, but I'll just say the boy's father. Right? I'll be like, where's that boy's father? Tell me." And the guy's like, the snow is like, huh? And he's like, Natsu's like, man, a man. Where is the man that came up here? And the snow is like, oh, man. And he points to a direction as Natsu runs that way. He says, okay, and starts running as the ape is following him. As he's like, where? As he looks at a window, and the ape grabs his feet and just throws him out the window. As Lucy sees this, and she's like, Natsu! No! She's like, no, please, no! And starts bawling a little bit, but then she's like, I'm going to defeat you for what you just did! And she pulls out the giant cow, her celestial spirit, the cow person, and the two start fighting as they clash axe against fist, as the axe gets just hit away and the cow dissipates. As Lucy's like, oh crap, she pulls out her clock key and uses it and makes sure that she's inside the clock as the ape is trying to get to her. As all you hear is, you tricked me, you ape! I'm coming for you! As you can see a bright red light illuminating from the hole that Natsu fell out of. And as Natsu rises, the light gets brighter and brighter and brighter as he's getting closer. And he gets up there and he's like, tell me where he is! And then he yells, Dragonfire, I think it was Dragonfire Fist, or Dragonfire, I think it was Dragonfire Fist. Can't remember. But actually, I'll just have him use this. As he yells, oh my goodness, I've got the name. As Natsu yells, Iron Binding! As he shoots out iron and melts it with his fire, making it melt and go right onto the ape, trapping him. And the ape can no longer move, and Natsu walks up to him and says, where is the man? And as the ape is like, man, that way, points towards the window again, and Natsu's like, I ain't falling for that stupid trick again. And uses a, you know what Gaijio does, shoots out iron out of his fist, or makes his iron into fish, makes iron into, oh my goodness, makes his fist into iron, and shoots it out of his hand, or like, you know what I mean. But as he does that, he accidentally does a little bit too much force, and it knocks out the ape. He's like, oh crap, now I can't get answers from him. And he's like, oh my goodness, why? As Lucy's like, not how? You fell out the window. And Natsu looks at her and says, well, you think that's gonna keep me down, a stupid fall from a window? And Lucy's like, it's like a 1,000-foot drop. You know that, right, Natsu? We don't know how far that is, but it might be 1,000 feet for all you know. Natsu's thinking like, what's fallen for a long time? I mean, yeah, whatever. I've done worse. And she's like, worse? What do you mean worse than that? He's like, you don't want to know. And as he turns around and sees the ape transforms into the man. He's like, oh, how is that even possible? And he wanders up to the man and helps him up. I really wish I remembered his name. You know what, just because I can't remember his name, we'll just say it was a different boy from the canon that went in and said his father was missing and all that. We'll say the boy's name was like Tim, okay? And we'll say the father's name is John. as he walks over to John and says, hey, John, you okay? And helps him up, as John is in the Guild of Fairy Tale. And John's like, yeah, not sure what happened. Last thing I remember, I was fighting a few ape things, managed to take about 4 of them down, but then I blacked out. I can't remember what happened next. And Natsu looks at me and says, I beat you into a pulp, that's what. For some reason, you were one of those things, like ape things. So I beat you up and you turned back to normal. I'm not sure how that's even possible, but it worked, you know. Oh my goodness, I can't stop yawning. As Natsu helps him back to town, as they reach town, the dad and Natsu and Lucy are walking through town as the boy is sitting on the step and sees his dad. He jumps up and yells, Dad, you're home! As he runs over to him and gives him a hug, and he's like, thank you, Natsu, Lucy, thank you, thanks. As Natsu and Lucy are like, well, Natsu's like, no problem. Anytime you need something, you know where I am. Fairy Tale. And as he walks away, and Lucy's staring at his back, thinking, he's kind of cute when he's acting like that. As she blushes, I was like, no. And before you guys say anything, it's not a Lucy X Natsu ship. As you guys should know, I'm just having, little crushes, make a little bit drama. Because there are 3 people that have crushes on him, and they're all slight crushes right now. Just slight. There's a 4th, but it's just not here yet, as you guys know who the 4th one is. But let's continue. As they get back to the guild, and the father decided to stay at home for a bit and spend some time with his child because he was missing for a few days. And Natsu's like, oh, a day's work. As they're about 2 days later, they're just sitting in the guild, haven't done anything really that interesting. Just kind of sat around and played a little bit of games, board games, and try to fight each other. As Gray walks up to Natsu and says, hey, Flame Brain, come on. As he's like, what? And he's like, fight me! As in this one, Gray does see Natsu as more of a rival compared to in the regular series at first. Like, at first, he didn't seem so much as a rival, but later in the series he did. But in this series, he sees him as a rival earlier, and he wants to prove himself that he can beat his rival. And Natsu's like, I don't feel like it. Can we not do this right now? I'm too tired. And he yawns like, and Gray's like, you faker, you know you're not tired. And he's like, yeah, you're right, but I don't feel like fighting. As he just leans back and starts trying to snooze, as Gray shoots some ice at him, and it hits Natsu. Give me a second. As it hits Natsu, Natsu's like, Gray, I said I didn't want to fight. As Natsu tries to attack Gray, as they're starting to destroy the guild hall, just like they always do. As someone runs in and yells, she's here! She's here! Urza! Everyone, calm down! As everyone's like, Urza? And Gray and Natsu are like, oh crap! As she walks in and Lucy's like, what could scare those two? As she's looking at Natsu and Gray, and after she hears the doors open, she looks over and sees something. She can't see the full picture yet because the light is too blinding. But she can see a shadow, and all she sees is a figure with a giant head, as she thinks. And she thinks it's a weird head. She's like, what the heck? As Urza walks in and she's like, I'm back. And looks at Natsu and, oh, I said that wrong. That sounds like a man's voice. Can't make it sound too girly because Urza isn't like a complete girly girl voice. I'm back. I'm gonna go with that, I guess. I'm back. So, as she looks at Natsu and Gray and says, so, how have you guys been, huh? As Natsu and Gray are faking, friendship, you know? Well, they have a friendship, but they're faking being nice to each other as they put arms around each other and start dancing and say, we're the best of friends right now, Urza. There's no worry. As Lucy looks over and says, yeah, right. As she actually does get to see Urza's face, and she's like, ooh, she's really pretty. As in the series, she is known as one of the prettiest girls in Fairy Tail. As that happens, Makarov is actually at a meeting with some people. And Urza looks at a few people and she's like, listen, I've heard of a dark guild attacking this certain place, and we need to go check it out. I am here to grab a few people to come with me because I heard that they are really strong people. As she says, I want Natsu and Gray. I need you two to come with me. As she's like, so I heard there was also a girl here named Lucy. And Lucy steps up and says, yes, I'm Lucy. As Urza's like, okay, you're coming with us. I heard that you took down a snow ape by yourself, huh, right? And she's like, who told you that? And she's thinking that, but she doesn't say it. And Urza is like, oh, well, that must be correct. You're coming with us because I think you're strong. As that's the only reason why she's part of the crew, because of Urza, if you think about it. As she's like, oh, okay. And everyone's like, holy crap! Those three in a team? As Mary Jane looks over and says, this might be the strongest team in Fairy Tail yet! And everyone's freaking out and celebrating like, woohoo! You know? And they leave. They head off to the same place they did in Canon. I think they headed off to some kind of station, you know, like where Natsu tried to break through a giant tornado inside. And she used Virgo, I believe, to get out of there. And we're gonna say that she already has Virgo, okay? We'll say she already had her, because I don't feel like going over that arc. Kind of boring. But, yeah. As they go off, and Mary Jane's like, I gotta let Master know, as she writes a letter and sends it over to the guild. I mean, not the guild. Over to the meeting where the masters of the guilds are talking. And it reaches the meeting place. And someone walks into the room where they're all having the meeting and, you know, celebrating and waiting for the meeting, actually. As everyone looks over at the person that just walked into the room, they're like, why are you here? As they know it's the messenger. As she, or he, I don't know if it's she or he, we'll just say she walks up to Makarov and says, I have a letter from you from a Mary Jane from Fairy Tail. And he's like, okay. He takes the letter, opens it, and before that, he was all screaming ha! I don't care what the Magic Council says. My people aren't gonna be able to destroy a whole town. I mean, they're not that powerful. As he opens the letter, and he gets a magic thing that is that's a hologram, basically. As Mary Jane is in the hologram, and she says, Master, we have a new team assembled in Fairy Tail. And it's a hologram to where it's they can talk to each other from there, so they're actually talking. And Makarov's like, who is it? And Mary Jane looks at him and says, oh, it's Natsu, Gray, Urza, and Lucy. And he's like, what did you just say? Did you just say Urza, Natsu, And Gray, as he actually says Drakon, as you guys know, I'm just reminding you, it's Drakon, I'm just saying natzu, because I'll get mixed up. As she's like, yes, those three, why? As he's frozen, he's like, those three might be able to destroy more than a town. As everyone stares at him, he's like, if he's worried about this, then there's probably a reason to be for us to be worried, isn't there? As they're like, yeah, this is probably bad. As we go back to Natsu's perspective, as they're walking, and they go and get their luggage and everything, and Lucy looks at Urza and says, why do you have so much luggage? As she has the normal luggage she has in canon. And Urza is like, well, you have to be prepared for every situation. As I'm surprised that Lucy isn't the one that would be bringing all that luggage, because I would see, like, I didn't think Urza would actually be one of those girls that, have or guys, I should say, that have so much luggage that it's not even funny, for just like a day or two trip. That's like my sister, except on a lower scale. She brings like 4 bags for a 2-day trip, and I'm like, you just need one bag. But yeah, as they're like, yeah, whatever. As they reach the town, and there is people surrounding the station, and Lucy, Natsu, Urza, and Gray all walk up to the station, and they ask the policemen that are around the building, what's happening here? Is this what we were hired to do? Because as Urza was, Urza was the one that got the request to do this mission. As the guy looks at her and says, yes, you are Urza, from Fairy Tale, the, fairy princess. I think they call her the fairy princess, or it was something fairy or something or another, and she's like, yeah, that's me, and I brought some people along with me, some of my comrades. As she's like, okay, we have a dark guild inside, and I don't know who they are. I think they were called Arachnophobia, but I think that was actually later in this series that they meant Arachnophobia. I'm not sure. But I can't remember who it was, but it's that guy with the scythe and can control wind and all that. As Natsu, Lucy, Urza, and Gray all walk into the building, and they see some of the people, as they start fighting, trying to take down a bunch of people. As Urza takes on a whole crowd by herself, takes down every single one of them, but is a little bit worn out because a few of them were still tough opponents, as one of them was actually, because I don't want them to win too easily, because Natsu has a more powerful magic and he'll win pretty easily, so I want it to be a little bit harder. As Urza actually had to fight someone that could de-equip her armor. And she finally won at some point after she pulled out a wedding dress. After the woman falls, she's like, you must be desperate to get married, as she passes out, and Urza's like, no, and she's blushing tomato red, and she's like in shock right now. Not really shocked, but how some guys and girls can be when something like that were to happen, and they're like really insecure about it, and all that. They're frozen for a few. As they go to Gray, and Gray is actually fighting some guy that can go into walls. And he's fighting that person, as it's actually quite hard because the person has been dodging and going inside the walls and attacking him. As this guy can actually not just go through walls, he can also control the walls. So he can send spikes and stuff like that out. And Gray is dodging and dodging and dodging as spikes and stuff like that are coming at him at a very fast speed, but he had enough, and he's like, okay, Ice Mick Hammer, and he takes the hammer and hits the ground as the building starts cracking and part of it falls apart, and everyone on the outside is like, ooh, ooh, what? How is that even possible? As they're like, how did that even happen? Who tore apart the building? As they're all thinking for a second, it must be the Dark Guild, right? Nah, it was Gray. Well, that's not even the worst of it. As we're going to Lucy, and Lucy is just fighting a few guys, and she has an easy time. Let's give Lucy an easy time because, well, as you guys already know, even though some people will disagree with me, Lucy is the weakest out of their team right now. Some might disagree with me, but that's what I think. She isn't weak, but she's the weakest out of the team. So she has a pretty easy fight, though, just for the fact that she didn't have so many people, or not that powerful. Just some people that she didn't like because they were perverted. And she knocks them out. As we go to Natsu. And Natsu is fighting the guy with the scythe and wind magic. As he's fighting and fighting and fighting. And the guy, he's like, how can I take out this brat quickly? I need to continue. As they do have the flute. And they're planning on using it. Because I'm pretty sure that's the reason why they were on this mission, was for that flute. If I'm correct. If I'm wrong, then I'm sorry. But it's a what if, so anything can be possible. So if it isn't, we're gonna say it is. You know. But as the guy uses wind to blow Natsu back, and he jumps on a train at the station and starts getting away. As Natsu's like, no you don't! As Natsu's running after the train, and he does get on it, but he's having trouble because since he has 2 Dragon Slayer magics, he has 2 times the amount of motion sickness, so it's a lot harder for him to do anything. As he's like, I gotta get off of this. He's like, I gotta get off of this train. But this guy's out. As Happy comes behind Natsu and grabs him, as Natsu pukes everywhere. He's like, blah. And he looks up and says, thanks, Happy. As they fly off, as they are still chasing the train. They're not gonna let the train get away. And they're fighting airborne. As Natsu hits a fatal strike to the train, so it stops and it can't move right now as it falls off the tracks. But no one was inside, so no one died. And the guy jumps out of the train before he actually went down and lands on the train tracks, as Natsu and the wind guy have the same battle in canon where they're fighting and fighting and fighting. At first, the wind user has the advantage because Natsu is not using his iron yet. As the guy is winning because he's using the wind against his fire to push it downwards and put the flames out. As Natsu's like, I've had enough of this! As he hardens his body completely to make sure he'd be really heavy so he couldn't be lifted off the ground by his wind. And then ignites his metal that he shoots out of his hands on fire and shoots it at the guy as gray fire is surrounding it. It hits the guy and sends him flying, but he doesn't get knocked out. He's still awake, and they keep fighting. And Natsu sends him flying a few more times, as everyone is worried back at the station. Urza, Gray, and Lucy are like, where's Natsu? What happened? As they don't see the leader anywhere either. They're like, oh crap, Natsu! And they're like, what happened, what happened, what happened? And they notice the train's gone. So they follow the train track, as when they finally reach Natsu, Natsu is standing over the guy, about ready to finish him. Not like kill him, finish him, but, you know, knock him out. As another person swoops in and hits Natsu back. We're gonna say it's some random dude, okay? The guy that's like on their team. I don't know if this actually happened in canon, probably not, but they grab the flute. But they weren't able to grab the leader, so they get out of there. But the leader was still there, as they take him in and they start questioning him. Like, Natsu's like, what did you do? What's that flute for? And why did you attack the station? And he's like, one of my subordinates got away with the flute. Oh, you're all dead. And he looks with an insane look. He's like, he will finally destroy everyone. as I can't remember who it was that was in the flute, but it was some kind of monster. And everyone's a little bit worried right now. They're like, oh crap, what does he mean? As Natsu and Lucy and Urza and Gray are a little bit worried, and they go back to the guild hall and inform Master what happened and ask him about the flute, as he explains what the flute actually is, as he says there is someone inside that could destroy the world if it came to it. Even though I personally think the guy's not that strong, considering Urza, Lucy, Gray, and Natsu all destroyed the thing with one attack each. But, you know, I think they said he could destroy the world or something like that, or he's really strong, you know. And they're all a little bit shocked. They're like, he's actually really that powerful? I thought that guy was just bluffing. And Urza looks at Natsu and says, Natsu, this is bad. If that thing gets released, there could be chaos. And chaos is not good. Not at all. As Natsu shakes his head, and he looks at her and says, you're right. It's not good. We need to stop this. As, you know what? I know how they're gonna meet Wendy again, okay? We're gonna say the only weakness that this thing has is wind magic, and not just any wind magic, dragon wind magic, dragon slayer wind magic. As Nakaroff says, well, we don't have anyone in our ranks that's going to be able to defeat them. The only one that could defeat them on our team would be Mystigan, but he's gone. We don't know where he is right now, and I don't know if he'll get back in time. I'll still summon him, just in case he does. But I know a guild that has a wind user. And not just any wind user. A wind user just like Natsu. A dragon slayer. As Natsu looks up and says, do you know another dragon slayer? And he's like, no, I don't know the dragon slayer. But I know that he, or she, I mean, is in this guild. As Natsu's like, okay, we gotta go find her and ask her for her help. And he's like, yeah, that would probably be for the best. And Natsu, he's like, I'll go get her. Lucy, Gray, and Urza, you guys should probably stay at the guild to make sure that nothing bad happens. As Natsu is going to start his journey, as he starts walking away down over to the guild that he was told, and it's really far away. And I'm gonna stop it right there. I'm sorry if it might be a little bit short compared to my other videos, but I might need to stop for the day and not post any more today, because I was planning on to do like 2 more of these videos of what if Natsu had Iron and Dragon Slayer magic, but I'm not used to doing voices yet, so it does take a big toll on my throat compared to other what ifers right now. And water doesn't really help my throat, unlike others, so yeah. But I'll see you guys in the next video. Hope you enjoyed. If you did enjoy, like and comment down below. And if you guys have any ideas of what you guys want me to do in this series, leave them down below and I'll consider them depending. But yeah, have a good one.